Meet Ben, a sort and delicate individual in his mid-20s. He has an extraordinary influence to stop time and satisfy his desires. He habitually utilizes this influence to disrobe ladies and partake in his number one action drawing. The story begins with Ben and his sweetheart Susie contending. Susie calls Ben a failure, making him upset. Ben chooses to say a final farewell to her, which makes Susie significantly angrier, and she begins tossing things at him. At that time appears to dial back for Ben. After they separate, Susie rapidly begins dating another person. Ben is surprised and harmed when he sees them together in the school cafeteria. His companion Sean proposes that Ben disregard Susie and date another person to make her desirous. Despite the fact that Sean isn't perfect at connections himself, Ben chooses to offer his thought a chance to adapt to the separation. Ben chooses to take craftsmanship classes, something he's forever been keen on. Shockingly, he succeeds at painting, particularly making similar representations of individuals. Anyway, around evening time he battles to continue on from the separation. Recollections of Susie torment him, continue to keep him conscious for a really long time as a sleeping disorder holds him. Ben becomes discouraged and unsteady. One night he attempts to copy the photos of him and Susie, yet he can't force himself to do it. The absence of rest worsens his sleep deprivation, leaving him feeling fretful and depleted in spite of attempting to keep himself occupied with during the day with books, motion pictures, and solo outings. Ben finds it hard to shake off his sleep deprivation. Subsequently, he begins meandering in and out of town around evening time. One day while at the grocery store, Ben sees some work promotion and chooses to apply. Figures working will assist him with forgetting about his ex and bring in some money. The following day, he handles a meeting with the supervisor Jenkins and gets the work. A couple of days after the fact, Ben meets his associate Sharon, a clerk. He sees how every representative arrangements with fatigue. Distinctively, Sharon covers her watch to try not to check the time, while others like Barry Brickman and Matt Stevens mess about and never view work in a serious way. Their manager Jenkins appears unfazed by time, flaunting about his riches and accomplishments. Anyway, Ben has a one-of-a-kind approach to breathing easy during his night shifts. He can freeze time utilizing his superpowers. This permits him to do anything he desires without anybody seeing. Then he saw a delightful young lady remaining before him and concluded he needed to draw her, as drawing was his number one side interest. He started to take off her garments individually to draw them. He spotted Sharon conversing with Steve. He drove Steve away from Barry and Matt, who were causing tumult. Then he re-established opportunity to its typical stream, and everybody continued their exercises. The following day, Ben caught Sharon, the clerk, in the storage space. He held affections for her, yet missed the mark on boldness to communicate them. As they bantered, Sharon surprised him by taking a nibble of his sandwich, which made an abnormal second between them. At last Sharon left. While Ben was working, Matt unexpectedly showed up, enthusiastically reporting his film date with Sharon. Ben was staggered and sank once more into his sensations of despondency. When Sean saw Ben's diverted state, Ben trusted in him about Sharon. Sean recommended that maybe Sharon was essentially going out with Matt's companions, and there probably won't be any heartfelt sentiments between them. Jenkins assembled his workers and declared they would play a well-disposed football matchup against his companions. Ben and his colleagues were reluctant yet had no way out. Sharon chose to watch the match. Steve's group was quite terrible and driven in 26 objectives during the game. Matt kicked the ball hard, coincidentally smacking Steve in the face. Ben halted time and went to the cafeteria for a beverage, yet he detected development. He saw somebody escaping and acknowledged he wasn't the one in particular who could stop time. Later he continued time and Steve wound up with a serious nose injury from the football. Matt took him to the clinic and requested that Ben bring Sharon back home. They went to a nearby burger joint and talked. Ben found Sharon was single and Matt's case of dating her was only a joke. She shared her fantasy about setting off for college yet bombing. She had been working at a store for a very long time. She got some information about Ben's fantasy, and he uncovered he needed to be a renowned painter. Sharon referenced her craving to meet a painter who sees the genuine magnificence in things. Ben then drove her home. The following day, Jenkins, currently distorted from the football mishap, chose to set up a birthday celebration. Sharon welcomed Ben to go with her as her date, and he joyfully acknowledged Steve. Then, at that point, moved toward them and gave Ben cash to help plan for the party. Later, Ben got a call from somebody welcoming him to show his compositions and a presentation encouraging him that his specialty was at long last standing out. Anyway, it ended up being a trick by Barry and Matt. That night Ben prepared for the party and got Sharon energetically. He educated her concerning the challenge to show his specialty. Ignorant about the trick, Sharon really complimented him and they hit up the party together. At the party, Ben saw Susie, who was there with her new sweetheart Steve's sibling. Regardless of Susie's endeavor to reignite their relationship, Ben declined as he had found his perfect partner in Sharon. In spite of Ben's refusal, Susie endured and startlingly kissed him powerfully. Ben drove her away, yet before he could make sense of he saw Sharon. Seeing the whole scene, devastated, Sharon left before Ben could address her. He went to Sharon's home to apologize, yet she didn't allow him an opportunity to make sense of, leaving him feeling discouraged again, fully expecting his impending gathering with the alleged workmanship display organization. The day showed up and Ben took his best work of art to the display. True to form, the display proprietor denied booking an arrangement, uncovering it was each of the a trick anyway. Dazzled by Ben's portrayals of Sharon, the proprietor offered him an opportunity to display his labor for one night. Days after the fact, actually annoyed with Ben, Sharon got a solicitation to his craft show and chose to go to as she showed up at the craftsmanship exhibition. She was as struck by the wonderful artistic creation she understood that Ben's compositions were an impression of his affection for her coming him. Sharon communicated that he didn't have to make sense of anything on the grounds that the work of art said a lot about his sentiments. They shared an energetic kiss in the midst of the display. In the last scene, Ben and Sharon went out together. While snow was falling, Ben halted time and held her hand, showing her his capacity to stop time. They partook in the magnificence of the snow together, loving the occasion.